down right, motion, tailback slant. Let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner, all right? On one, ready? Go, 13! Coming up, go, 13!
And just like that, it's time to talk football. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett, Grant Goodwin, Sideline to Sideline, brought to you by NeuroGuard, right here on L4 Media. And man, I swear to God, I just saw your face. It feels like yesterday in the studio, and we're back. Hey, I'm happy. Are you happy?
Dude, I'm stoked.
Are you stoked? How are you doing,
a
buddy?
little bit more excited than you are. I like football, though. So
you know, this has been a 17-year grift.
Right. Yeah, you're just pushing through it, and I'm enjoying it.
I'm doing the.
We got to go to a game again.
Jeez, are we gonna? Okay, Grant. I guess we'll stay over in a hotel and watch Michigan and Ohio State for the 4th year in a row. No, man, it is a blast to be back, and we're back in new surroundings, same building, new surroundings, and of course, with all that comes, we're gonna have some sound issues as we work those out. And I just kind of, when we were redesigning the studio, Grant, I love the table, and we have that for outdrank the coverage and everything, but I just felt like you and I needed to kind of go back to we're just kind of sitting in a chair, chilling. In fact, we're in camping chairs for this year, but we're going to have some recliners next year. But
dude, that's not safe.
What?
Recliners?
I know.
Yeah.
The other one and the things you did to it too. And
it's falling asleep.
Yeah.
I get to that age where I can just fall asleep. I'll fall asleep at a slot machine with money in it. I can fall asleep.
You know, I think possibly
leather recliner.
I think it's possible because my fiance, she works weird hours, and so she goes to bed early. I'm at the point now, man, if I'm up at 9:30 at night, I better be doing something really, really good, because if not, I just want to be in bed.
Yeah.
But not for football season.
Nope.
And by the way, this is Sideline to Sideline. We talk 4A, 3A, and 2A football here in the state of Texas. And this is our first off-season show. He's Grant Goodwin. I'm Terry Bennett. Now, the crazy thing is the way we're doing them this year, I didn't even realize this till we were kind of getting ready today. We're basically doing all of our off-season shows within a 7-day or 10-day period. Because of the way scheduling's worked out in August this year. We're not going down to the Corpus area at the same time. You are going early August. I'm going middle August, and then the season starts. So we're going to actually record our Big R's preview shows a little early, but they're still going to drop the same time. We're doing Darkhorses tonight. Next week we'll do toughest district. The next week will be toughest region. Then we'll drop our first Big R's preview show, and then we'll drop one a week, and then the season will start.
We're not going to do the best scrimmages in the state.
No,
anything like that.
Yeah,
I might do that next, or while you're gone to Corpus.
Yeah,
or I might just do it live from Port A. Best scrimmages in Texas. 6-man scrimmages in Texas.
Bring up a good point, though. We do not do a week one show mainly for that reason. I mean, we've done all the previews, and while we love to talk the previews in season, it just feels really weird to talk the week one previews. Even though there's some great games, we just really don't know anything. And I don't look at scrimmage film. I will check in on a couple scrimmages if somebody posts a clip of a play. But I will admit I know you get nothing from scrimmages, so I'm just not going to do that.
Well, okay. Nick's my idea.
What of a scrimmage party? You wanted to be like the
a
first
scrimmage show.
Hey, what if we went over, because your house isn't too far from Dave Campbell's studios.
Yeah.
Why don't we sneak over and
5 minutes.
Yeah, why don't we sneak over there? You know, they kind of do that red zone for Friday nights now.
Yeah.
And we'll do it for the 2 weeks of scrimmages.
Okay. Red zone scrimmages.
Red zone scrimmages.
Let's look in at Anthony and Rawls.
We'll even do a fantasy draft for those 2 scrimmages, and we'll take some money. But anyway, speaking of Dave Campbell's, they're a part of our Darkhorse show. Now, here's what we're going to do. Sorry, I had a message on our Discord. By the way, you can check out our Discord if it's as a Sideline to Sideline. All you have to do is join our Patreon, www.patreon.com/outdrink the coverage. That covers all of us. But anyway, so going back to what we're doing. So normally Dark Horses, we would just throw like 4 or 5 out per, and just kind of go from there. But honestly, with the split divisions, it kind of, there's not as many teams. So when you get 4 and 5 teams deep in a Dark Horse, you're basically now talking about the 35th team, team in the state. And yeah, sometimes those 35th teams in the state make really far deep runs, but it just becomes redundant. Honestly, that's the same thing with our toughest district. We're cutting our toughest district down this year from 5 to 3. It just feels a little bit more meaningful.
Right.
And so we're going to flip some things around on the Dark Horses tonight. So what we're going to do the first half of the show, we're going to give you a few per division each class, and we'll start with 4A and we'll go down to 2A. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we will kind of do what Matt Stepp and them think of Dave Campbell's, because they now do a Dark Horse, and it's kind of interesting. What do you consider a Dark Horse? And then we'll throw a few other Dark Horses out. Now, the first ones, though, these are the Dark Horses that we feel are going to make good, not just surprise teams in their district. We're talking about teams that will surprise teams at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to start
quarterfinals type.
Yeah, quarterfinals, semifinals, that kind of stuff. And we're going to start at the top 4A Division 1. We'll work our way down. Next week, we'll flip it for one of the shows, and we'll start at 2A, and we'll work our way back up to 4A. But 4A Division 1, Grant Goodwin, who is your Dark Horse?
My first one is Bay City.
I like that one.
Yeah,
and they're borderline just being known this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had a really good year last year. 2 rounds into the playoffs, I believe, 8-4 record. Alex Estrada, the quarterback's coming back. Jada Andrews, Island Williams at receiver. That was a lot of offense, a lot of points those 3 put up last year. And the offensive line should be solid, and the defense should be really good this year. Very experienced defense behind that offense that could put up points. I just see the Black Cats going a long way this year.
Well, and I think they're taking the steps toward the game's not being too big for them.
Right.
That they're leaving the
they kind of reemerged last year, I think.
2 years ago, they were scoring a lot and they couldn't stop anybody. Right. But then last year, they finally started winning some of those games.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
So I'm going to go out to west. Well, technically sort of west, little central. I'm going Springtown.
Oh, okay.
The Porcupines, last year kind of bounced back. They had one of their worst seasons in history 2 years ago. I think they were 1-9 or 2-8.
Something like that. Relied on Hewlett, the quarterback, quite a bit, right?
Yeah, and they just had nothing around him. Last year, they bounced back, surprised everybody. They went 9-4. They have Hayden Nichols at quarterback, and more importantly, they've got a lot of these guys. Even though they only have 9 starters, it's still 4 and 5. They've all are not just starters; they're 2 and 3 year starters. Mm-hmm. A lot of that, why they were 1 or 2 and whatever it was a couple years ago, was Hewlett, and then a bunch of freshmen. Yep. And those freshmen now are juniors, and the sophomores are seniors, and they're in a district. Yeah, Decatur, of course, is going to be really, really good. But after that, it's going to be them at second, and they're going to battle Decatur for first. And we talk about this now, as much as district champs are great, it doesn't matter anymore. They can go second and still get a great draw. And I think Region 1, 4A Division 1, I think it's still going to be good, but it takes a little bit of a step back from where it was the last couple of years, in my opinion. And that does help when it wasn't. And I do want to point out, you're going to point out, never mind. Go ahead and give us your next one.
Alvarado, actually, going right down the road, man. 7-5 team, I think, last year. Caleb Collier back at quarterback was just phenomenal. DeMarcus Belton at running back. And that defense that Indians have should be pretty solid as well.
and it's fun to be able to think of Alvarado and throwing the ball.
I know, right?
It still blows my mind, but they've embraced it. And programs sometimes don't. Just talking 4A, we'll find out if Cal Allen embraces it because they're changing up, and sometimes they
How
don't.
about Holiday?
Holiday, well, yeah, Holiday changed it,
Yeah,
and
down
this
in
year,
3A.
year 2, they're going to be even more. He understood. Coach Atwood's not dumb. He understood what he had last year, and he
Right.
ran with the big boys and used them, and they kind of morphed into this. Take the lead with the throwing offense and then play keep away. But with Alvarado, they embrace it. We don't know if Cal Allen will. Sometimes they do. And then sometimes teams like Paul Pewitt, they try it and then they go back to their old style. So it looks like Alvarado's embraced it. And I like that. I think that's a really good choice. And again, I think it shows where we think like Region 1 and Region 2 are. I think both of them in Division 1 are ripe for a dark horse type team.
Yeah.
All right, let's move ourselves over to Class 4A Division 2. You cannot take Carthage or Gilmer. Sorry about that.
Oh, man.
You can't take Brock
I think
either.
those are ringers.
You can't take Brock either.
Okay, I won't take Brock, Carthage, or
it's coach's school.
Gilmer.
Coach's school's coming up, and so I've been just kind of reaching out to a bunch of coaches and a bunch over in 4A Division 2, and I've been, kind of bringing up the, what are your thoughts? And they know that we do a lot of Brock stuff. We have a Brock show, and so all of them are like, man, is that Brock real? Because their coaches are fearing them as the team that they think is going to come up and they're not going to miss a beat. I was actually thinking Darkhorse, but then Dave Campbell popped them at 6. I don't know if they're that ready, but we will see. But who do you have in 3 or 4 Division 2?
My first one, I've got the Van Vandals.
You son of a! You didn't talk. See, okay.
Well, you shouldn't let me go first.
Well, no, it's fine. I didn't think anybody was stupid enough to take Van after all my mini failures.
Yeah, well, I did not. I did not predict Van to upset Carthage or anything like that.
Hey,
Though that was a good game last year.
That wasn't
Van
last year when
Carthage.
I did that.
No,
though.
I know, but several years ago.
No.
But Van, returning Jackson Moffitt at quarterback, Justice Anderson, that just masher of an O lineman, and they have a really good O line returning. I think as strong as they were, we saw them twice last year, and that offensive line might have been the star of the show for Van, and I believe they pretty much come back intact. So they should be a really tough out. Defense maybe need to grow up just a little bit. I think they lost some on defense.
That's kind of how they roll right now. Van, you got to give them credit. If they were in any, I don't say any other region because Region 3 Division 2 is really tough. But if you threw them out to Region 1 or if you threw them out to Region 4, Van would be a region finalist yearly.
Yeah.
They would, and this is not a knock on teams like Navarro and Wimberley that do that. Those are good programs. But they're like Van, they're good programs, but they're also situated in a region where you've got 2 games you have to worry about a year and you're going to be good. Van has to worry about 5, 6, and for them to just kind of lock in at that 8-4 third round. I know though, man, that glass ceiling is starting to get frustrating because, I go back to 2 years ago when they took Gilmer in that first half of Thanksgiving to the mat. And then what always happens, they just got out depth at the end by a little bit bigger program. But I like Van this year.
I think they were really physical last year. We saw that against Carthage, how physical they were. They got up and went toe to toe with the Carthage Bulldogs for at least 3 quarters. Right. I think they can do that this year offensively, at least. I just think they'll be able to push people around.
Yeah.
They'll be tough to stop offensively. And if that defense grows up pretty quick by district, then Van could be very scary in the playoffs.
I'm going to go way out west, and I'm going to go Monahans. The Lobos last year were 12-1, 6 starters on offense, 5 on defense. More importantly, they've got Cole Pittman back at running back. McCallie Barnes at wide receiver. And I know Campbell's has Seminole over them in the district, and I like the Indians this year. And what they did last year was a nice bounce back. But I have Monahans. I mean, this is a team that, what was it? 3 years ago, we saw them against Midland Greenwood, and it was embarrassing. It was sad, and for them,
they had the dudes.
They had
the eye test was there for Monahan.
Yeah,
so
and again, that was a team that was transitioning from a slot T style to a throwing, and we were thinking, man, they're not going to embrace it. But then 2 years ago, they got a hot streak and they took off. And then last year they continued it. And they're doing what we were talking about with Bay City. Each year they're going one further round. And I feel like in this region, there's going to be a lot of questions. And I know, Brock and all that, but I just feel like Monahans might end up coming out of this region. And then here's the biggest thing, if they can stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to these smaller classifications.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always that if right there. I'm going Madisonville. Ty Williams at quarterback. How good they were last year, 2 rounds deep in the playoffs, I believe. We'd seen Ty Williams has been leading this offense for at least the last 2 years. We saw him against Columbus in Madisonville 2 years ago, and the command he had over that offense, Ty Williams, you can't sleep on him. You got to keep an eye on him. He's a pretty solid passer, but he can also take off on you. And I think Madisonville is going to score some points this year. Defense should be pretty good too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It felt like the last 2 years, one side the year before was mainly defense. Their offense, we saw them against Columbus, and they pushed Columbus around, but you could tell they were trying to pigeonhole the ball to one guy who was their 1D1 stud. And then last year, they flipped him more on defense, and they got really good defensively, but they struggled offensively. But Ty Williams, later in the year, and they've done that 2 years in a row where it feels like what you see in week 1 isn't the same team in week 8. And that's what you're supposed to do, of course. Yeah. And so I like that. And I'm going to add one more in 4A Division 2, and that's Sinton. Mm-hmm. I think Sinton this year, I actually think they're going to win the district. I know they've got Cuero there, and Cuero is, of course, Cuero. But I think Michael Troutman has the Pirates ready to – the last 2 years have kind of been disappointing. And again, we go to what region they're in. Yeah, they were 10-3, but they lost every game that they played a team at their level or above. Uh-huh. And they've kind of done that the last couple of years, and they could have easily do that again. But I'm going to trust this offense with Tristan Handon and Derek Garcia at running back. And I just I like that they, we follow so many of these pages and Facebooks, and I like that they kind of have a bad taste in their mouth. And when you see good programs having that attitude, usually that next year, some good things happen.
Right.
All right, let's move over now to Class 3A. We'll start in Division 1, and go ahead and start, my friend.
I've got the Jefferson Bulldogs.
Oh, you son of a... What? Okay, so folks, at the beginning of this, he got here, and we usually hang out for about an hour, especially the first couple shows, and catch up and everything. And so we start trading who we're going to go out there. And I thought I was throwing a curve because I said Jefferson, and you just went, oh, okay. And then you took it from me. But
I didn't hear you say Jefferson. I probably wasn't listening. 7-3 record last year, but Cameron Williams at running back, Thomas Taylor at quarterback. That's just dude. They're going to move the ball at will this year. I think the defense is going to be a little bit better, right? Should be.
Well, and here's the thing. And Antoine Jemerson, I think, did a really, really good job getting Jefferson to be consistent. Uh-huh. But they had, I think, kind of maybe reached the apex of what they were going to do with him. He kind of cleaned out a program that at time has had some issues. I mean, we're talking about a team not too long ago, they were on their way to being a region threat. The quarterback gets shot, and things like that. And so Ty Taylor's come in. He comes off the Pleasant Grove staff. And, man, if he even does a little bit of what Pleasant Grove does with the athleticism of Jefferson.
Yeah, the athletes are there.
No, I totally agree with you. I think they are legitimately a team that you need to watch out for. And they're in a district that's not going to be overly tough, but will test them. Mm-hmm. And they're in a region that, of course, is always, again, tough, but not the toughest you're going to see, if that makes sense.
All right. Who do you have?
Well,
you have Jefferson. Yeah. Go ahead and repeat that.
This is going to be, I'm staying out in East, and this is going to be kind of might be losing our light there. This is going to be kind of.
New studio, by the way. This is pretty
Thank
cool.
you.
Kind of this PVC or something. Selling
today, we're going to have Beanie Babies,
ballpoint pens, 1995.
Hey, if you'd like the ballpoint, go to our ballpoint pen. But I'm staying out East Texas, and this is kind of a cheat, but I'm going Winsboro. And the reason I'm saying they're a team that is going to be a dark horse is because they lost pretty much everybody, or that's at least
you're not going because of their track prowess this year.
Did you see
it's
that?
It's a speedsters.
Well, and that was part 2 of they've lost the quarterback and they've got to figure that out. But they've still got Camden Capehart and they've still got Tyson Johnson and they
Capehart can move.
He can fly, and they still got an offensive line that was very underrated. And I tell you what, this defense got scrappy as that year went. They're not the greatest, but they try to keep you in games. And I don't know, how many times have we seen a team that went the furthest they've ever went, and they lose a lot of people, and everybody buries them, and then the next year they top it?
Sure. Yeah.
I could easily see Winsboro doing that.
All right. I'm going back out west, and you're going to cuss me on this one too, but Sweetwater, the Mustangs.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to sneak them under.
Very freshman heavy last year, right? Few sophomores.
Great quarterback. They started
Caden
undefeated.
Ortiz,
Yeah,
2,000-yard passer, man, coming back. And Cordell Moore at running back. And a lot of offense right there.
They started undefeated last year, playing a lot of 3As, and then depth and injuries and just not being good.
And being freshmen and sophomores.
And being freshmen and sophomores, they dropped down. I thought we were going to get to kind of sneak them under, but tip of the hat to Dave Campbell is they put them at like 8 in the state. And I'd make the case that might even be a little low. I think Sweetwater legitimately is going to drop down and at least for the next 2 years be immediately, holy crap, they're going to replace the vacuums of teams, that we talked about like Brock and stuff. And Region 1, man, it's kind of different this year in 3A. And so I think they're going to easily kind of slide in there with the Bushlands and stuff and be a power.
All right. We're going 3A Division 2 now.
Yep. 3A Division 2.
I've got Muleshoe in 3A Division 2.
They're interesting, man.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, they've got a 2,100-yard passer coming back, and Nathan Martins, Jasu Sagala at running back, who I don't know how many yards he had last year, but it seemed like every time we were doing show research, he had over 100 every week.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
And you put that with a 2,000-yard passer, man, that's trouble for other defenses.
Yeah, we'll know early. They take on Canadian this year.
Yeah.
So they're going to get hit in the mouth, and we're going to figure out where they're at with that. But yeah, I like Muleshoe. I think Muleshoe is going to play for a long time this year. I'm going to stay in the region, and I'm going to go. And I know this again sounds a little weird, but Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Holiday. For all accounts, everybody thinks that they've lost. A special class, and it was a special class. Don't get me wrong, but I think at times it handcuffed talking about changing schemes and things like that. It handcuffed what they did. Now, the one knock on them is they did kind of have to get a guy to come in and play quarterback who only was a senior. And so now they got to figure that out. But I mean, Kyle Atwood's proven he could find quarterbacks. He was finding quarterbacks in Alice.
Yeah.
And that's tough. I mean, this isn't nothing against Alice, but there's a reason why.
Sounds like you got something against Alice.
The diner.
It's tough to find a quarterback in Alice.
Well, it is. I mean, there's the one guy. What was his name? Last year. He transferred out.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Anyway,
I just didn't know it was tough to find a quarterback.
And they're in they're in a district in 6-3A where, I mean, you've got Jacksboro, but we don't know what Jacksboro is going to do after their special season last year.
They're going to be pretty darn good.
They're going to still be good. But I'm just saying, I don't think anybody in that district scares Holiday.
Yeah.
And so that's one of mine for 3A Division 2. Who do you have?
New Diana, actually.
That was the one. So we had the same one. I think, New Diana, we were just talking about Overton in 2A, and Overton and New Diana kind of are the same, where about once every 5 or 6 to 10 years, they just pop out of nowhere. New Diana made that run a few years ago. That was magical. Now, again, their reasoning is they lose their coach.
Yeah.
But this year they keep the coach, and they have a ton coming back.
DeJuan Johnson. That's all you need to know, man. That quarterback, dual threat quarterback, one of the best freshman quarterbacks in Class 3A last year, right? Now he's a sophomore. It's got all that much more experience, probably a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster. And then you throw in Jaden Johnson at receiver and defensive back. He's a huge, he's a playmaker. He anchors that defense, and he gives Johnson a weapon on offense. So I think New Diana, as long as they stay healthy and their defense plays well, I think the sky's the limit for New Diana.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that and again, we talk about they're in a region that has a ton of talent, but not always consistency.
Uh-huh.
And you have that. All right, let's flip over now to 2A.
All right.
Division 1. I'll start first. And this is going to be, this might be one of the more controversial ones. Not controversial, but I'm going Wascom. Wade Lawson, the head coach there.
They didn't win many games last year.
They were 3-7, but they returned 18 starters, 9 on offense, 9 on defense. A couple of the coaches that were in Tatum have come back to Wascom. I think they're trying to rediscover themselves and how good they're going to be. But
that's just, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would call them a dark horse. I don't know. Sometimes we agree. Sometimes, most of the time we agree, but I don't know if I.
I mean, you're just because of their record last year?
Well, yeah. I mean, they got beat pretty good early, right? I think they got a little bit better going into district, but I don't know.
But here's part of the thing. Now they got destroyed in district actually, but they got beat. They got destroyed by Harmony, who was Harmony and Dangerfield. Right. They lost 1, 2, 3 games, and one of those is a district game. They lost by 1 to New Diana. Talking about New Diana and what they did last year, but they lost 3 games by a combined 9 points. So I mean, all of a sudden you go from 3-7. I'm just saying, if you win those,
right.
you go from 3-7 to 6-4, and even if you miss the playoffs, you look a little bit better. I just, and I'm going just solely off what people are telling me. A lot of people that I trust are saying, like, this not, and they're not ready to run off 3 straight state semifinals and 2 state championships, but they feel that this is the closest they've been since that 2015.
Well, 16. I just want you to trust me. They're not.
They're not what?
A dark horse.
Okay.
They're a favorite.
We'll see.
No, I'm kidding.
We'll see. All right, who do you have?
All right. I've got Panhandle, actually.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, they returned the house, and they got Broxton Robinson, dual threat quarterback, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks up in the Panhandle area, and then a really solid offensive and defensive line. And I think they're going to be able to really make some hay. They were 10-2 last year, right?
Yep.
And they returned the house, and again with Robinson at the helm under center, I think they're going to be a tough out.
I thought this team that I was about to give you, I knew you would agree, but even then, there's some trepidation with them. But Dave Campbell's popped them in the top 5, and that's Honeygrove.
Yeah,
I had Honeygrove. I think Honeygrove's gonna be really, really
what
good.
What does Dave Campbell's have Honeygrove?
3rd.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
they're not
wrong.
A dark horse. I think they could be a favorite.
Well, and again, I think
they got to find some playmakers back on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, and they've got to be able to find playmakers when they play the south side of that region. I mean, because if you're telling me, and again, we're talking pre-injuries and all that, Garrison's a top 5 team. Give me Garrison by 14 over Honeygrove right now.
Right now? I don't know, man. I don't know whether to agree with that statement or disagree right now, because I'm still on the athleticism. On the athleticism.
Reason I'm saying
but I think the athleticism of Honeygrove
is better this year.
I think we're both maybe underrating it, right? I want to lay eyes on Honeygrove before I say they're a favorite, but in my mind's eye, I see them being one of the favorites this year, at least to get out of the region. Right?
I tell you what, that Cooper Honeygrove matchup, and thank y'all for having a couple teams now with hooks too that are just down the road on those Fridays that we can't get out of Dallas until 5 and 6 p.m. And I mean, those were nights before we were like, I guess we're just going to stay home. Now, man, we can shoot an hour out, get some great catfish, and watch legitimate football.
Yeah.
And then I want to finish one for me, Abernathy.
Oh, that's who I had. Actually.
Okay, cool. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
Give me your reasoning on Abernathy. I'm just going to agree because I don't have any other than kind of what they've got coming back defensively. That's my main thing.
They returned the house defensively, and let's be honest, they dropped a 2A, and that is a huge thing.
That helps. Yeah,
that helps, and I mean, I'm not going to say the Antelopes aren't going to score, but this isn't going to be the Abernathys when it was the whole kids running at quarterback. They're still scoring, but you made the point. They return the house defensively. They're physical, and I think when they drop down to 2A, and when the numbers are the same on depth and stuff, I don't think they're going to struggle in the physicality of a very physical region.
Oh no, they've been there, done that. That's a physical program.
That's a physical program out of the spread, and I think they're going to get down like Sweetwater and be like, man, this is kind of nice.
Yeah. Hey, before we go to 2A Division II and you talk about Abernathy moving down, can we pop back up real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Into 3A, I want to ask you a question. Speaking of moving down with athletes all the time, Liberty Ilo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I would have put them in there, but I think they might be a little bit more than a dark horse, or I might look stupid calling them a dark horse. Like, I don't know yet. I mean, they're going to have the horses, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have the depth.
What district did they fall in?
They're in there with. Oh, I was just looking at it.
No,
When I was looking.
they're in Jefferson.
Jefferson, yeah, and
So yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're right, dude. And Dave Campbell's has them firmly at 3, which I think is really good. You know, Brad.
oh,
Willard,
they have them at 3.
well in the district. But
Oh,
you
okay,
got,
okay. I thought you meant the state.
no,
Yeah,
no, no,
they're
'cause
top 20, I would imagine, right? Top 25.
I don't
but
know because they got Atlanta second. I don't think Atlanta's a top 25 team, are they?
I don't know. Atlanta could be a dark horse as well.
Well, I'll tell you what. The main reason I didn't because I've done it for 2 years in a row, and they kind of let us down. And you kind of, you know, we talk about all the time. There's that trust factor. I'm trying to get to the 3A poll. Hang on. Speaking of, we're going to actually start our poll week 2 of the year this year. Instead of waiting till district because people have asked us. Let me see. District. No, they don't have Liberty Ilo in the top, but they do have Atlanta. They have Atlanta 19.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. They have Liberty Ilo 21. So, yeah, you know what? If we're going to throw in Liberty Ilo, we're going to throw in Atlanta. So, really.
That'll be an entertaining district.
Well, I was about to say, we've got 3 borderline dark horses all from one district. That's how fun that district's going to be. All right. So, now let's move over to 2A, Division 2.
All right. I've got Overton as my first one. 10-2 team last year. Return the majority on both sides of the ball. Bryce Still at quarterback, who threw for about like 3,200 yards last year. Jaden Edwards, really, really darn good receiver. One of the best out in 3A out in East Texas in 2A, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't you think?
Oh, yeah. Again, the question for them is we've seen them jump up once every 10 years, 12 years, have a great season, and they immediately usually go back. Coach Lamance is still there. I think it was his first year as head coach. And, you know, that's a program if they can get a guy to stay there and they can get a couple classes churning through with the same schemes, the same workouts and everything, they could grow into a small little 2A power right there.
Yeah. Well, I think there'll be a power this year for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm going to go all the way back out west, and I'm going to go with Wink.
Oh, that's who I had.
All right, cool. The Wildcats last year, I think they went 10-2, and that's great, but they return everybody. And I don't mean just everybody. They also return all the good everybody's like Jaden Talley.
Right.
Because you and I talk about that. You'll see a team, and sometimes they'll go, oh, well, man, yeah, they returned 12 starters from that 10-2 team. Yeah, but the 6 starters they're missing were all the All-Staters.
Or their 2 big playmakers
Yes,
are now playing out at Tech.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
But with Wink, they've got Jaden Talley. They've got Raymond Epley. They've got a really good offensive line. They're in a district that is, you know, competitive, but not overly competitive. And I just think that they're going to have a path for a nice little playoff run.
We need to get out to Wink this year and go see a game.
You know,
we can go to the Roy Orbison Museum. You know, Kevin McPherson and I stopped by there one time to go to the Roy Orbison Museum, and you park and you go up there and there's a sign on there, you know, to entrance, call Mary Jo or whatever phone number. And we're like, oh, okay. So we called. She's like, hello.
Oh, you had to,
yeah.
I got
we're
you.
Like, yeah, we'd like, are y'all open? She's like, oh yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And she drove this big old hoopty down. I mean, the old, like my grandmother used to, you know, drive.
Yeah, the old caddy boats.
Came in and gave us the tour. And then when we were done, locked up and went back home.
That's what happened.
That's pretty cool.
That literally happened to Jenny and I in New Orleans. We were going to a haunted house thing, and we thought we were going to be like with a group and stuff. And it was real cheap and got great reviews.
Like a haunted, like a house that's haunted, or a haunted house like Halloween?
No, like a haunted house. Like a house it's New Orleans, dude. Every place is haunted.
Okay. Well, a haunted house.
Not like a jump out and scare you, like you could see ghosts type thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we thought it was gonna we thought it was gonna be a group and everything. And so we get there and it's like ring door. And so we ring door and we thought, it's gonna be a group. And like 5 minutes in, Jenny looks around, she goes, we're the only people here. And she goes, oh yeah, I only do these single. And I'm like, this is where we get murdered.
You don't have to drive all the way to New Orleans. There's a lot of old houses in like Nacogdoches.
Oh yeah,
just go there.
Natchitoches.
Yeah. Well, that's
underrated.
I'm trying to keep you in the state.
All right, so who do you have now as your next one?
That's who I had.
That's
Overton
it?
and Wink. Yeah.
That's it?
Well, I had 2.
Can I go Mark? Somebody
you can
so
go
when
Mark.
I posted this on 2A a couple weeks ago announcing our schedule, I said, hey, 2A fans, give us an underdog or a dark horse. And like 2 people were like, Mark. And I'm like, okay, that's not a dark horse. I mean, what do you
the 49ers, the Chiefs.
Anyway, all right.
You, sir, will be a genius at the end of the year, though.
That is segment 1 of 2024 offseason in the books. When we come back, we're going to talk about who Dave Campbell's put as their dark horses as they started doing this a couple of years ago. And then we'll just kind of throw in a couple others and kind of have a little bit of general talk before we close out this episode. And we'll do all that when we come back right here on Sideline to Sideline on L4 Media.
Hey, I mean, that was a good point.
I think we might start seeing some go back. Very good at Grant. We're back here, sideline to sideline, the Class 4A, 3A-2A show. And they'll stay the same like that for toughest district and toughest region. We'll probably do all those in one show. Whoa, you just popped up on my screen. That's a little interesting. And again, if there's some echoes and stuff, we'll get all that worked out by the time the season runs out. That's one of the reasons why we do these shows, is kind of get back into the swing of things. And being in a new studio, you've got to always – and we got new equipment. Like all this on this side of the table is all new. We've got new mics. We've got new cables. We've got new stands. And so we'll have to figure all that out. So anyway, so we gave our dark horses. And a few years ago, Dave Campbell started doing the same thing, not in this as much as we did. But first off, I want to say this. We all joke and stuff, but one of the things that's been nice about moving over to L4 Media is we don't have to hide our friendship with Dave Campbell, because our past owner had a weird grudge about stealing material, which is kind of funny, by the way. You can hear Coach's show here on S2S Sports that are actually on here. We don't advertise shows that we don't have. Just wanted to bring that out. But but I am openly saying that Dave Campbell's since 2020, since 2019, and even a little bit longer, but especially the last 3 years, this feels like the Dave Campbell's I grew up on. You feel like you're getting legitimate information, and you're reading and you're getting as in-depth as you can get with having writers do a lot of your stuff based on coaches' notes and things like that. But you can tell a lot of these writers know these teams too.
Yeah. In my opinion, it maybe for a while it had gone downhill, but then when Greg and Matt came in and
Yes.
kind of, I think it has improved so much.
No, I totally agree, and I definitely tip my hat to them and
'Cause
keep.
that's not easy, man.
No,
This is not
we found that
easy.
out. We found that
Yeah.
out helping Matt, and I was terrible at it. You were better at it than I was. I was the worst procrastinator. Of course, I was going through a lot of shit in my life then, but I at least know what it's like. And
Yeah.
and that was with a magazine that we didn't know if 20 people were reading.
Right.
You're doing it for Dave Campbell's. You're basically writing as you're the Dallas Cowboys of Texas high school media.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so good job on that. So we won't say that y'all took our Darkhorse idea, but anyway, so
We had it at the same time.
Yeah, we basically did. But their dark horses, they go a little bit more like they'll pick 2 or 3 that you go, are they really dark horses? And then they usually go with 1 or 2 that are like, okay, those are dark horses. In fact,
Yeah.
I had Dunbar as my dark horse, and then I go, oh wait, no, we do this every time with DISD and
Yeah, I am not
until
getting
they go
tricked
3
into that.
rounds. I just don't
Right.
trust them. Sorry.
Carter almost did that. to us
Carter's
this year.
closer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Carter's closer. Carter's
Yeah.
actually starting to figure things out. And also the biggest thing is they're going to stay there for a while. So they're able to
Yeah.
build something. But so they had them and then they had Andrews. And I like that. Andrews have a great running back and they have some depth. I still don't know big games, that kind of stuff. But I like that. But their other two in 4A are Navarro and Cal Allen. I mean, I get the Cal Allen one, new coaching, new schemes and all that. But they're still in that region, and they still should go 3 rounds.
Yeah,
unless they get sent in round 2, which could possibly happen.
Right. They used to own the region.
Yep.
And now I don't think they own the region. Last year was a big eye opener, for me, because I think maybe it's a changing of the guard. I don't know who's going to step up and be the owner of that region. Is it? I don't know. There's a few teams out there that could, but Cal Allen, I mean, I would consider them a dark horse this year. I think they'll be pretty good, and I don't expect them to run the region like I did 2 years ago.
Yeah,
right. So I can see what they're talking about on that.
All right, so over in 3A, they're dark horses, kind of the same way. This one's interesting. I almost did it too, and I didn't even realize that they had. And that's Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. This is year 3 of the Keeling staff. Now, they've lost a couple coaches to moves. I said a couple went back to Wascom, but that's Keeling. He's one of those guys that he has his hands in everything,
right.
in a good way. I mean, not a bad way. And I think it's you kind of feel like if they're not going to do it this year, are they going to do it? Because it is year 3 of the Keeling. It's kind of one of those. I'm not saying that he's on. I don't really know what hot seats high school coaches have. I know they do, but it's very rare that it's in the open. But I could see a town that's used to winning consistently. And usually when those teams start to lose talents, the towns don't understand that and they blame it all on the coaching.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Do you want to name one?
Anahuac.
Yeah.
They had, which,
Brody Barrier.
Well, they were supposed to be pretty salty last year, right? I don't know what they have coming back, but I could see.
Well, Brody Barrier, the quarterback from Russ, moving in is the big thing.
Oh, okay.
That's.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're taking an Anahuac team that is really, really good.
Yeah,
and have been kind of, again, when we talk about slow building that step process. Now their problem is they're kind of pigeonholed in an area where you better be really, really good
because you go this way, this way, and this way in the playoffs.
Yeah, winning district. Second, third, or fourth, you still got a crappy draw. But you're adding a D1 type arm to a team that I think would love to take the top off the offense. I like that pick. And then I also like that they went with Alpine.
Yeah.
They're a team that, brings out.
They were really good last year.
Yes,
Alpine.
And they have a good running back, a good quarterback, a young coaching staff. And so I think I think those are really good picks so far.
Yeah, Catula also.
Catula's a really good pick.
Yeah.
And they're dropping down, and you're going to see that. A lot of your dark horses will be the teams that were like Sweetwater. Again, credit to everybody realizing Sweetwater is so good that they're probably going to drop down and immediately become a favorite. But teams like that, when Chapel Hill and Henderson dropped down, nobody saw them winning state.
Right.
We all saw Carthage. I think everybody predicted Carthage, but Henderson and Chapel Hill at that time, that was a little bit of surprise. But anyway, let's go over now to 2A. And we're trying to work through the pages.
The one I like that they have is Weimer.
Yes.
I think Weimer's always really tough, really physical. Those are some tough kids down there. So, I kind of like that pretty good ball team last year. Do
Yeah.
have some quite a bit coming back this year, I
Yes.
believe. So yeah, I think Weimer's going to that hits the nail on the head.
I like
for a
their
dark
Mildred
horse.
pick, Corsicana Mildred.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of funny, though, on their little Dark Horse blip, if you know Corsicana Mildred and when they finally broke through and won state, what kind of team they were. He says, an under the radar 3A drop down, Coach Jeff Callahan's Eagles are a quarterback away from being a legitimate threat. This was a
That's
town
the thing that got
yes,
them to the
I mean,
state
they
championship.
for what 6 years had a quarterback every year putting up oh my god numbers.
Yeah.
They were kind of like an early Refugio in that they just couldn't break through, and then they finally, and again, just like a lot of times, the team that won state for them, you go, I don't even know if that was the best one of that bunch, but it's the one that survived and got through.
Yeah.
They also have Seymour. I totally agree with that.
Yep. Good offensive line out
yes,
there.
and then
right?
Lavia.
And the
Go ahead.
quarterback.
Yes.
Doesn't
Oh, yes.
Seymour, I think, salty quarterback. Yes, they do. He's
Brandon
still
Lloyd.
back.
Couldn't think of his name.
I thought he, for some reason, I thought he had graduated.
Well,
so-
for some reason, I always get them and Collinsville's quarterback mixed up. The kid that retired. I guess he technically
Wow.
retired from high school.
Graduated.
Yeah,
is
graduated from
how
high
we
school.
say
I always
that.
get them mixed up. But yeah, you know what? I think for the most part, they did a really good dark horses.
Yeah.
You said it best earlier. You do these dark horses and nobody will remember, but I like to do them because it helps us kind of go deeper than just the top five.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
go study them. And it's real easy to get locked into studying them for these big off-season shows. But you then start to, when the season starts and these teams surprise, and then people are asking you, and you're like, well, I didn't know. I got to go look now. So, and that's kind of why we started doing that. And again, we're going to be doing a toughest. You want to do district? Put district first out? Or district region?
do toughest region and
First.
then toughest
All right,
district.
we're going to record them both next week, but we're going to drop one next week and then drop one the next week. And then, of course, you will have our 3 big Ours preview shows. We'll pick every district. It's going to be a little different this year. We're doing it all in studio, but we are making plans for pizza and food and a cooler of beer. That's the one thing Grant doesn't like about the new studio is it's a little bit further away from the studio kitchen than the old one. I'm trying to maybe put a fridge in there in that closet right there.
That might be dangerous.
I'm going to get
Just
you.
make me walk for
So
it.
next year,
I'll metabolize everything a little bit more.
Next year, when you have the recliner and the fridge, we'll start running odds on how long you make each show before you fall asleep. But we've already got one game. We have nailed down our first game of 2024 that we will be at. Grant, where will we be?
Over in Midway, Texas for Salina and Belleville.
Grade. Oh. Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, one of those.
Salina, Belleville.
I don't know how.
And that's Hewitt, Texas, not Midway, Texas.
It's weird, though. That game, first off, it feels like in 3A and 4A this year, we have a ton of these games.
Mm-hmm.
But that one kind of slipped under the radar for me. And then when you brought it back, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And that, to me, is maybe the marquee, what they used to call cross-sectional games between two teams from different regions. I think that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, so that's Friday. That's Thursday night.
Yeah.
We're going to draw a 200-mile radius around Hewitt, and we'll hit up a 3A or even maybe a 2A game that Friday. Is what we'll do.
I think we're in for another amazing season of high school football. This is our 17th year of doing it, buddy. Wow. And I think us kind of compressing these off-season shows keeps us fresher going through. But I think we're going to have another blast of 4A, 3A, and 2A this year.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
I think we're going to close it out right there. I want to thank everybody for joining us again. You can find us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/@L4 Media Company. You can find us on our podcast only, S2SGrantandTerry.com. Again, we're also going to be having coaches shows and all those regional shows. We're going to have a Big Country Blitz show. By the way, if you're out in Big Country, get Big Country Blitz this year. You're going to see our ads in the magazine. We appreciate that. And so we're going to have a show out there. We're going to have an East Texas show with Brett from NETSN, a South Texas show, all those shows, all our coaches shows, all the fun stuff. And you can find that at S2SSport.com. Until next time, he's Grant, I'm Terry. This has been Sideline to Sideline on L4 Media.